Hydrangea is such an extraordinary flower that tends to cause feelings of affection, dependence, and an irresistible desire to have all the possible varieties, and plant them wherever possible in your garden. This passion makes me propagate and root more and more new varieties. Ask me what I have not tried. I know for sure that I'm not alone either. There are so many gardeners that are in love with hydrangeas for the simple reason that hydrangea flowers adorn the garden from July to November. And therefore, I want to share with you how I breed these beauties. Note that not all varieties of hydrangeas are created equal, and that the breeding methods I have suggested may work better with one variety than another. The first and easiest way is to divide the bush. Before the leaves start opening in early spring, I dig out heavily overgrown old bushes. It is even recommended to do this for some varieties, such as Annabelle and Snowball, not only for the purpose of reproduction, but also because the bushes are just too old and they begin to bloom worse, and such a procedure rejuvenates the plant. By dividing the bush, hydrangeas can be propagated in spring and autumn, and this method is very suitable for smooth type hydrangeas and big leaf hydrangeas such as Annabelle, Snowball, Invincible Ruby, Endless Summer, etc. The same type of hydrangea usually forms a large number of basal shoots, thus growing in width, therefore the separation of such shoots with the roots. And the second and very easy way to propagate hydrangeas, it can be used when you do not want to pull the whole plant off of the ground, or out of the ground rather. You just need to dig up the shoot with the roots and plant it in a new place. Unfortunately, for panicle hydrangea, the methods of dividing the bush are not always possible. Such varieties of frost-hardy hydrangeas, such as Lime Light, Little Lime, Pinky Winky, Vanille Fraser, Phantom, or Boo Boo. As a rule, they grow on bushes similar to a bunch of small trees or on one powerful trunk, which is why tree hydrangeas are most often grown from these varieties in the form of small decorative trees, due to the fact that they have strong and long annual growths of shoots, at the ends of which flowers are formed annually in the form of brooms. The most suitable breeding method for this type of hydrangea is ground layering of last year's woody shoots in the spring. This is the third, fast, and reliable way. Typically, you don't even lose blooms. It doesn't matter if branches root or not in the ground, the flowers can still develop and bloom in the summer. I prepare stiff hairpins from thick galvanized wire. Often I just cut off 2 long ends on tomato cages and then bend them in half to get a hairpin-like shape. Then I choose the branch that is closer to the ground and gently bend it to the ground, trying not to break it. Using the pins, I fix the branch in the soil so that it doesn't pop out, and I sprinkle it with earth. If this is done in March, then in May, it is already possible to transplant a young plant to a new place. Over the summer, it will get stronger, and with a high probability for the above varieties, it will endure the winter, and it will give you a rapid growth next year. If the digging was made later in summer or autumn, then it is advisable to leave the buried adherent plant till winter together with the mother plant for complete success of rooting, and to separate the young hydrangea in early spring by transplanting it into a permanent place. And of course, the fourth method is using hydrangea stems cutting. The method of propagating hydrangea by cuttings is more laborious, with inevitable losses, but you do not need to have the variety you like in your garden. I can ask friends for cuttings, exchange varieties with someone, or simply pick up a cutting from a bush that I like in a city park. Cuttings can be done both in the open field or in a container. For planting cuttings in open ground or in a pot, you can take both last year's lignified shoots and also green shoots of a current year. Long shoots can be cut into pieces with only 2 or 3 leaves on the crown and 10 centimeters long or longer. You can dip the cuttings in synthetic or natural rooting stimulants and then in the ground. I always add and mix large amounts of river sand with black soil to improve drainage capacity and prevent rotting, as well as some regular wood ash to effectively access the nutrients needed by the cuttings. On rainy and cloudy days, I keep the cuttings open, and in hot and sunny weather, To avoid moisture loss, I cover with cellophane or a clear glass jar. Usually after 3 weeks, the cuttings are already rooted and there is no longer a need for such greenhouses. For the in-ground cutting method, cuttings can be cut from early spring to autumn. And the last, fifth method is simply rooting cuttings in water before planting them in the ground. Fresh cuttings can be simply placed in a glass of water, pre-treated with natural stimulants for root formation. You can watch a video on our channel in 2 parts on how to root cuttings in water quickly and efficiently. The link will be below. For rooting hydrangea cuttings in water, I usually take mostly only green shoots of the current year, since lignified shoots in water form roots much worse and often die. Hydrangea grows quite quickly, and after a couple of years it can begin to bloom abundantly. Plants, bushes that cost $50 to $60 in garden centers can be easily grown by yourself in just a couple of years. Therefore, using all these propagation methods, it is quite possible to grow a significant assortment or collection of these beautiful flowers in your garden and enjoy many months of beauty.